John Carpenter is one of my all-time favorite directors. He has put out so many great titles like 1980's The Thing, Escape from New York, The Fog, Big Trouble in Little China, They Live, to just name a few. But in all of his prolific filmography, his most influential work has to be 1978's Halloween. Halloween in no way created the slasher subgenre. That award has to go to 1960's Psycho. Halloween did, however, refine the iconography of slashers. Even iconic slashers such as Black Christmas and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out before Halloween, but Halloween's influence superseded both of those. You can look at Halloween as just a run-of-the-mill, faceless man stabs teenagers movie and call it a day, but even for the average viewer, I feel like the subtlety and meticulous nature of the film allude to a deeper undertone about the movie. Even though it is a $300,000 budget indie horror movie, it doesn't necessarily have that amateur look to it. But how does a simple story have so much depth to it? And how does such a low-budget movie do everything so well to become one of the most influential horror movies of all time? Let's get into it. Let's start with this scene here. You can see Laurie walking down the street here, but the filmmakers use deep focus, which essentially means that every part of the frame is in focus, from the foreground to the background. This is normally used to show different layers of a shot at the same time. However, in this scene, the only thing of interest is Laurie herself, who only takes up a fraction of the screen. But when we watch the movie, our eyes don't necessarily follow Laurie. Michael has already escaped at this point, so the audience is already expecting Michael to pop up at any moment. So with this deep focus, our eyes trail to the edges of the screen instead, searching around every part of the screen for where the infamous killer is. The angular lines of the suburban town direct your eyes down long passageways and also sets up the main setting of the movie, which is important to the theme. The camera is angled towards Laurie so that what she has already passed stays in frame, lingering in the background, while what she is walking towards comes quickly and without warning. This form of camera movement implies the reveal of something, which the audience would assume is Michael Myers. It only reveals Tommy Doyle though. But then the camera stops moving and the two walk to the edge of the frame until the camera cuts. The audience was originally thinking that the previous shot was going to have something scary in it, but this is now a new shot. Since the last shot nothing happened, this edit means that this shot must have something scary in it. This toying with the audience's expectations is what makes this scene so effective and yet so subtle. Then a few more cuts happen and the audience relaxes because they realized there isn't anything scary in this scene. But before the scene ends, that's what I mean when I say that the filmmakers use cinematic techniques to show the horror. Both the camera work and the timing of the editing make that a perfect scene in my opinion. It also ends with a very long shot of Michael staring at Laurie with his iconic heavy breathing motif that pays off in a big way at the end of the movie. Horror movies tend to focus on making a particular setting scary rather than the entire world. Sometimes it is specific, like a particular haunted house in The Conjuring, but sometimes horror movies take larger concepts and make them scary. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, sure, makes Backroads scary, but more scarily? But more scarily is that it makes daytime scary. Nightmare on Elm Street makes dreams scary. And Halloween makes suburbia scary. There is some extra textuality in this because Halloween was made fresh off the mainstream attention of the Manson family. People are no longer perceiving suburbia as the happy-go-lucky nuclear family classic of the post-war 1950s. This was the time of the war on drugs, Watergate scandal, the Manson family. This is a world of Vietnam protests and a waning Cold War where country introspection is becoming more common than blind patriotism. All of this is to say that the suburban setting of Halloween struck a chord with the populace of 1978 due to its topicality and allegorical nature of a faceless being of pure evil invading the quote-unquote safe lifestyle of America. A large part of the subtlety of the original Halloween is the enigmatic nature of Michael Myers himself. He is put in the credits as the Shape, not Michael Myers. The Shape is a being of pure evil. Even his face reveal doesn't humanize him. His white mask is in the uncanny valley, which adds to his creepiness, but it's not in a distracting way. It just allows him to seem almost human, but also lifeless. Even though you see him as a young boy, the expression on his face after just brutally murdering his sister is not one of an angry killer. He shows no remorse or frustration. It is completely emotionless. This carries to his adulthood. He walks around like a shade, no emotion or drive to his movements. The way Dr. Loomis talks about him stresses this with his menacing descriptions.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes.
Also, the fact that he never seems to die adds to this effect. He is shot and burned and stabbed so many times throughout the series, but he always returns. Likewise, his constant disappearances make him have this apparition-like character. This culmination of characteristic pays off in my favorite ending to a horror movie. Halloween ends by having blank shots of everywhere Michael has been, with no sound except for the breathing. It is as if Michael is everywhere. Even if you can't see him, he can see you. And the moment you think you can find this personification of evil, it seemingly vanishes, but it is always still there. Halloween gets an easy 5 out of 5.